Test. Oh, test. Okay, there it is. That's the wrong one I was. Oh boy. What if we do this, I guess? What the fuck? Okay, so let's remove. Is that the one? It is kinda hot today. Okay, so apparently I can do a lot of fancy shit with this program here, so what can I do? Oh, I need to connect my phone. I can do that later on. Why do I have phone notification? I can draw on the screen. Does that pop up on YouTube? Oh, it does. Neat. That's the thickness. Erase. I can make an arrow. A line. A square. A circle. And a triangle. Why would you need a triangle though? What is this? Claw pen. Okay. I have no idea what that is though. Highlighter. Oh! Yeah, this needs to be thicker. Where's the thick boy? There you go. Interesting. This actually interesting. So that removed the highlighter also. I should have Firefox installed. Oh, that's on my dev laptop because I want to see something. Let's just download it and install it on this computer. What the fuck? Thank you for downloading Firefox. So Firefox, I might as well give some information if anyone is listening. It's an interesting story. Continue. Nope. I actually have never. I haven't used this in forever. So please forgive me here for a second. Let's try some of these fancy things here. So, glow pen. Yoink. Look at my creative stuff here. This would make it a little bit easier for tutorials and stuff like I can see that. So we don't want to import anything Can I not just skip this step? I don't want to sign in. Start browsing. Set your location. I don't care if you guys know where I live. So this is 18 degrees, and they're getting it from the same source. Huh. Oh no, I think I'm using Open Weather Map. Also, apparently, accordingly, and all that fucking shit to this software, there should be like watermarks and. Oh, I can hide that. No, I can't. Oh, I don't like that. So I'm testing this software out here. Prism Live. I don't like that you can see the viewer count and stuff like that. Can I hide that? Because this apparently should give you a... So let's say you want to do IRL or you want to use your phone. You can easily just log in with the same software on your phone and you click a button and it just... You are streaming from your phone. Music playlist. Add source. I think you guys might as well just see what we're doing here. Because I don't think it will show anything. That it should not see. Oh, we can... Oh, hello. So apparently here you can have local music. I thought you could have like Spotify here, but apparently not. This is a fun one. You can add in... so they have built in GIFs, whatever you will call them, that you can... So this cat down here is one of them. Is that a penguin? Oh shit, I'm still in... Wait, what is the output? I don't show anything worthwhile. So it should output in 720p. 60. Or 720, yes, yeah, it does that. And I will explain if anyone is interested in hey, okay laptop. Anything you want to talk about, let me know, because I'm just I'm testing this software out here. How many fucking what if you search Linux up here? Can we do that? Holy crap. So it's basically just searching the whole repo. So yes, you can do this with OBS. You just need plugins, and you don't know how well they are maintained, and blah blah. This is built into the software. So this is OBS with extensions. That's how you should think about that. Who are you? Any opinion on React OS? Oh, you mean the uh oh, I actually ran that for a little while. Yeah. Switch to English. This guy here? Yeah, so I actually used to fuck around with it many moons ago. This is interesting. Yeah, I like it. So this is their stickers that they have. Is it download? Yeah, it's downloading it. I wonder if I can code in so it happens when people donate and stuff like that. Yeah, I like the idea of it, if that makes sense. I just don't think it's a viable business idea. That's a fat, thick bot. What is this? So the idea. Oh, hello. So the idea of that you're basically a reverse engineering Windows, the Windows NT and 95 days and stuff like that, as a technical and intellectual exercise. Amazing, great, and stuff like that, but you can't build a business up around it. I kind of like this one here. Let's put that down here. Because you will always be behind. If I'm making any sense whatsoever right now. You cannot compete with Microsoft and do a one-to-one copy of Microsoft that a Windows that is a closed source software, because they will always be ahead of you. Always. Because not only do you have to figure out how they're doing it, you have to wait for them to do something. You know, so you are in a react mode, so you're reacting instead of be proactive, if that makes sense. So you're sitting there and waiting for Microsoft Windows or Microsoft to make a feature that then you have to reverse engineer and etc. So you're always playing catch up, and that's never a good position to be in any way, shape, or form. And that means that you will always be behind, and when why the fuck? My headphone. What the fuck? What the fuck? Okay, so my headphone just had a fucking hissy fit. What is... That was because I turned it off and hit the wrong button. Okay, so what I was talking about with the whole catch-up thing is that the idea of React OS is that you want to make a compatible Windows, aka you want to compete with Windows. Because you want people to run this program to run Windows software. And if you always are behind, that means you can't, in a lot of instances, run current version. And apparently this is like 30 years old, which means that, yeah, they're not even in 1.0 in 30 years. This is not a good sign. So the way that I look at this, I look at it as a technical exercise. And I may be pissing off a few developers by saying this, or a few people by saying this, but if it is taking you this long to get to market, you have a really, really low chance of getting to market. Like, games, software in general, like massive games and massive software in general, they are like 5 to 10 years in the making, most of the time. From idea, concept, proof of concept, betas and stuff like that. And when they get it up and running, they can then do more rapid release. It would be like me having a YouTube channel that is like 40 years old and be like, next year I will get like 1 million subscribers or 2 million subscribers. So next year after that, if it has not happened in 40 years or 30 years, it's probably never going to happen. And can you make it happen? Yes, but if you continue in the same way and not changing anything, it will never happen. Because what have not worked for 30 years are not going to work the next 30 years. It's like if you're digging a hole with like a stick versus a shovel, and you keep telling yourself, at one day, the stick will be better than the shovel. Or shovel. One day, I can dig a hole bigger, better, and faster with my stick. The same stick I've been using for 30 years, than with the shovel that my next door neighbor are using. They have to radically, or not radically, but they have to change the approach that they're doing it. And I don't mean like close sourcing it, but they need more developers. That's the biggest point. And if they can't attract more developers as it is right now, and we can then say, why can't they attract more developers? Well, that's because there's no market for it. The thing with Linux back in the day, you know, the good old Linux kernel 1.0. Why did Linux kick off? Because there was a need for it. Hey, Chris. So Linux kicked off because there actually was a need for it. People wanted it, people needed it. So that meant that the community and developers were willing to invest into it. And then on the other hand, you could say, why did that not happen with React OS or Haiku? And that's because there just is not a market for it. As interesting as these projects are, there are no market for them. AKA, people don't want it as they want it in Linux. The corporate world don't want it, and the consumer don't want it. And then if you're going to really piss off people with the Linux desktop, why has the Linux desktop not taking off? As great as it is, we can all agree that the Linux desktop, if you go on to DistroWatch here, you know, the good old Linux desktop. Yeah, I consent, I accept, I hate all these fucking advertisements. I get why they're doing it. Why has this not taken off? You know, if you, let's utilize the new software here a little bit. If you look at the top 10 here, why are they almost the same? Why do they stay stagnant? When there are so many other great Linux distributions that are new and fancy, because there's no market for them within Linux. I forgot to remove the thing here. So even within Linux, we see a reaction or a case of this is that everyone comes out with a new cool idea for open source software or for Linux, and why is it not taking off? Because the user base / market don't want it. So why is the Linux desktop not taking off? Because the user base and the market don't need it, or don't want it. For all the faults of Windows, all the greatness of Linux, there are no need for another desktop. Sadly enough, or however you will look at it. And you can yell into the void and say, this is better than Windows. If it don't provide a value to the user base, to the market, to the industry, call it what you will, that's all they care about. They don't care about that the source is open, it's free, and you are not under the fingernails of the good old corporate America. Because here's the reality. We are under the fingernails of corporate, whatever you'll say, all day, all the time, in all aspects of our life. If we just say we want to be independent on our OS front, we still go to a shop where, if you look at your shop, it's like 5 or 10 brands that owns everything in the shop. It's like, look at sodas, you know, it's like, what is the PepsiCo and Coca-Cola? They own everything. All the other brands are just subsidiaries of those two things. So if you say, I will say, fuck your cola, and you buy a Fanta or whatever, you're still supporting Coca-Cola. And then there are independent small little groups, but you get what I'm coming at here. And people know this. People are not stupid. This is one of the biggest misconceptions that a lot of these Linux users and advocates they have. They think people don't know what they know. They think that, like, because you're not interested in technology, you are not smart. That's the biggest misconception you can have. Because they do know a lot. They are probably smarter than you. They just don't have the same interest as you, though. And that is why they don't care about that. They rather have that, let's say, the search engines want, like everyone did not just use Google. They rather have that when you want an email provider, the go-to is Outlook and Google, you know. They rather have more OS competition and store competition on mobile phones. So it's not either Apple and the App Store and Google and their App Store, even though you can both them in EU at least, you can sideload apps and stuff like that, but you still use Play Store and you still use the Apple App Store. They rather have that is more open and competitive than their OS. And when you start to approach people with the notion that a lot of these Linux crazy people do, that you are running Windows and Mac, therefore, aka you have an IQ of a goldfish. when you go to, when you approach people like that with that mindset, you have already lost the conversation, because now you're not talking to them as equal, and they know that. Because the conversation points of why you should use this or one of these over Windows become about, well, I am smart, I made the smart choice, and you have not. Nobody likes to be insulted like that when you are trying to sell them something. Imagine you went into your coffee store or Starbucks and someone's like, you are not drinking this Fappa Latte with 10,000 calories because you're stupid. It's by far the best value for money. And blah, 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 blah. And you are supporting bad people by drinking regular American food, American coffee, or an American, or what they're calling it. You don't know what you're talking about. Are you ever going to go onto that person's site and get their coffee? No. So the first mistake that all these people are doing is that the market speaks for itself. If there was a big market for Linux desktop will be a thing. That's just plain simple. If the market, aka the community, aka the user base, call it what you will, the collected centers of the world, even with all of the bad things Microsoft do to keep Windows relevant, if people really wanted Linux, they will be using Linux. Or if they really wanted a free and open source version of Windows, they will be using this. It's that simple. If you really want Nikes or Adidas, you will buy them. Or get them in some way, shape, or form. And like I said with the shovel and the stick, you can't just keep trying to dig a hole with a stick and say this is the best way of digging a hole, and do it for 30 plus years, or 40 years, or 60 years, and then say, next year, my stick will outperform the shovel, because the world will realize that the stick is better, while the shovel is way ahead, digging bigger holes, better holes. But you're never changing your approach. And that's why this is, for 30 years, it's not even in 1.0, and the same with Haiku. And that is why a lot of people are not using Linux desktop. Not only is it not providing something that the community or users really, really need and want or care about, the disciples are also approaching them like they are lesser people. They are unknowledgeable people for not using Linux. And the Linux community, even the big Linux, the big Linux companies, are still doing the same shit as they did in the 90s with promoting Linux and using Linux and stuff like that most of the time. If it didn't work then, it didn't work in 2000, it didn't work in 2010, it's not going to work in 2020. And that's just the sad reality of it, or what you will call it, is that how can I explain it? Linux is really good. I don't mean Linux, I mean developers of us and the users of us, the promoters of us. It ties into that video I released, that open source is not about you. They have made a really good job at making Linux and FOSS and all of this thing into something that most people don't care about and has no base in reality. And we have to realize this. What we have done ever since here, since I don't know when release 11. No, that's not 11 years ago. Oh, they did. When did this come out? Can we see when it was first released? When did 1.0 come out? Can anyone remember this? If there's anyone listening, is there any inclination in here, like a We should be able to just Google it. 94. Good old AI. If you want Linux on the desktop, and this is and the approach and the everything that we have done since 1994 so now, if that has not made Linux on the desktop, it will not do it in the next 30 whatever years. The same with these guys here. They have to rethink it. If they want this to grow, and I don't think they will or won't, but if this want this to be a competitor to Windows, like real competitor, they need to figure out how to get money. And a massive amount of money. Can we see what Windows development budget is? I can't spell. Oh, that's just a Windows application. So this will give you an idea. To build and deploy a Windows application, spec cost to range from 20,000 to just get a basic minimal viable product to 150,000 plus for complex enterprise apps. So imagine what they are trying to do here with like a fraction of the developers for Linux. Let's see if we can draw some more shit on the what this is the glow pen. Boop, boop. Highlighter. Yoink. Interesting. Or I can also just hide it. Huh. Delete all. Interesting. Interesting. Anyway, I was looking into these. I just noticed some new releases came out that I'm a little bit interested in. So Deep, and I've always been fascinated about this because I have tried it a few times. I don't like they're trying to mimic Windows. They should not do that. But one thing that I have noticed, the same with Kylin OS, whatchamacallit, they are really good at doing UI UX design. Like, they understand that that's part of the reason why people like using software, if it's intuitive, pretty, and get out of the way from the user. Oh, they're using Debian now. Didn't they used to be based on Ubuntu? Like, I'm sure they used to be an Ubuntu base, or am I just massively fucking stupid here? But yeah, like, I'm always like low-key looking from the outside into all of these like Asian distributions because they really fucking go up there. And Archbang, when was the last time they? Oh, they had like a massive break at one point, right? No, that's Crunchbang. Or what is the other bang I'm thinking about? Crunchbang? Can I see all distributions? Major, no. Search? Oh, no. I think it's down here. There you go. Fuck, these ads are irritating. Because Artsbang used to be super popular, but there's one called Quadsbang. I wish we could just make it in alphabetic order. Search distribution. Type in distribution name. Can I just do that? Quadsbang Plus. It's one of these. I think. Why? Oh, it's a continuation of Quadsbang. Yeah, that's the one I was thinking about, that discontinued in 2015. This distribution of Quadsbang Linux was really popular for a long time. One of the distribution I really like using back in the day is this one here. I really love this one, but let's see if I can remember this correctly. So the owner or the main developer of the project died, like from old age, I think, or complication from old age. And the son did not want to continue it, but this was like a super popular Linux distribution back in the day. And it was somewhat popular. It lasted for 4 years, apparently. But it was super lightweight, and it was using IceVM, and had its own control, admin panel, and it was a site for good, not a site, but it was like one of, like, it gave people hope. I don't know how to, because does it say yeah, so the company Lipa Computer System Ltd has been doing Unix and FOSS software basically since 1984, and it was like, think about Ubuntu before Ubuntu kind of thing. They went in with it with like the mindset of for the everyday user, and it was such an amazing system to use back in the day. They did a lot of, or helped you do a lot of things that you need to be a fucking configuration manual junkie to figure out back in the day. Like, you needed to go ass deep into manuals left, right, and center to do a lot of the stuff that they did here. The same with Bandwidth back in the day. Another one, I don't know if that's still alive. It used to be, that's also discontinued. This is was one of my favorite Slackware distribution that I ran a lot. Also done by a small Canadian computer company that basically wanted to do what Ubuntu did for Debian, they want to do for Slackware. Because the thing is, you have to remember is that, or not remember, but a thing that's worth thinking about, if like you don't get a more streamlined and efficient distribution than Slackware. Unless you're going Gentoo and using compile flags, where you compile the software directly for your hardware. That means that when you compile VLC or Firefox, it can only run on your computer, because it's specifically compiled to your CPU, motherboard, GPU, and all that fucking shit. And there you only get like 10 or 5% more performances and efficiency. But Slackware is done so stable. It's one of the stablest fucking thing ever. And minimalistic. There's no bells and whistles about the plain old Slackware. And for the longest time, it didn't even have a package manager. If you wanted to install a package, you did it the good old-fashioned way. You downloaded the tarball and you compiled it and dealt with the library's incompatibilities on your own. If it needed like donkeyrun.lib, you have to find donkeyrun.lib and download that, compile that, make sure that you use the right version and blah blah blah. I loved Slackware for that. You learned, like, there used to be this saying that if you ran Red Hat, you learn Red Hat Linux. If you ran Ubuntu, you learned Ubuntu. If you ran Debian, you learned Debian. But if you ran Slackware, you learned Linux. Because it was so bare bone, and it was so, or is so bare bone, and vanilla Slackware is not they do have a package manager now, but they don't try to put a lot of conveniences on top of it. Even Gentoo and Arch is more convenient than Slackware. Because their package manager, dependency resolutions, and all of these things. Slackware's getting there. They do have some of that now also. But when you install Slackware, you got the Linux kernel, whatever software, if there was an installer that allowed you to install other software. But other than that, you just get the Debian, the Linux kernel, and a desktop environment. And that's it. You had to do everything else, and you couldn't just do pacman-syu and get your shit, or I can't remember, what is Gentoo's ported support, or emerge, or something like that. You had to do it, you have to go and there was site that will basically repository sites, if you can call that, where you could download them online. Let's say you want VLC, you went onto a site that has like all the source code or the tarballs for VLC, and then you would download that for Slackware and you would compile it on your own. But you needed to know what you were doing with Linux to run Slackware back in the day. You needed to understand compile errors. You need to understand compatibility library errors or conflicting library errors to fix that. And this Vector Linux was like trying to help with that. So they had like a repo manager, and they were using apt-get, the Synatic frontend from apt-get, or apt from Debian. I ran this for the longest time. This and Libre Linux, I ran this for the longest time. A short-lived distribution that I actually thought would take off was called Linux, and they went even more user-friendly than any other distribution at the time. I actually think you could play a game while this was installing, funny enough. But yeah, they tried to become super user-friendly. And they have Netscape, that's the precursor for Firefox that we are using here. Yeah, but it only lasted for 2 years, sadly enough. But they did a lot of things to make Linux approachable. You could install deb and RPM packages natively, easily. Bob's your uncle. You double-clicked it, it just worked. Oh god. And then I used Crunchbang Linux quite a while also. A lot of us nerds did that. This was like, for the time, this was kind of like our Hyperland, Arch Linux with Hyperland kind of thing. Because it was using Fluxbox, I think. No, OpenBox. I always installed Fluxbox on top of it. If you don't know what Fluxbox is, it's like OpenBox with a little bit of conveniences on top of it. this was like my main not IDE, Windows Manager, I think you will call it, Windows Desktop Manager, for years. Like we are talking close to a decade. But it was cumbersome to set up, and not all distribution makers was supporting it the way they should, because it was this obscure little thing. But you could make Linux look like anything you want. Oh, they haven't updated it in like 10, 11 years. The other one I then migrated over to, because I was a hardcore no-life Linux user, was IceVM. That became the next one that I was really like dipping my balls deep into back in the day. That's still supporting and supported, and still actually an amazing Windows manager. That, in my humble opinion, gives the right blend of open box, these like tiling Windows manager and a proper desktop environment. This, in my opinion, sits amazingly in the middle. And if you know how to configure stuff, you can get fancy desktop effects and all that shit enabled and stuff like that. It's not super good, but it will work, and you need to know how to fix problems as they arrive, because if you want, like, you know, wobbly Windows movements and shadowing and stuff like that, you need to basically pipe in a compositor and stuff like that. That Gnome and KDE, they do on their own. And that also means that now you are the one making sure that that works on your system. So you need to know how to fix it after updates will break it and shit like that, because they don't update as a coherent method. But this is like, I'm surprised that no more Linux users use this desktop. Maybe it's because it's don't look fancy enough, or it looks too much like a Windows desktop environment. But it can do anything your tiling Windows managers can and stuff like that. Well, almost any environment can do that. It's just a matter of setting it up to do it. But I used to run this look, this look, and this is actually on Slackware. Yeah, but these two here, I piped in Compass Fusion or Compass or what it was called. I piped that in here so I could get these effects as they have here back in the day. And I ran this on like a 1-core, like 2 gig BAM system, and it felt faster than my fucking Ryzen system that I have right here. But yeah, I don't know why more people are not into IceVM. It's an amazing system. I used to talk to a guy that used this quite a lot, and he would help the developer out, the main developer, or at least talk with him quite a lot. I don't know how it is nowadays, because we're talking 5-ish years ago. But back then, the main developer for this project was super active and super communicative with the community and the user base of the software. But yeah, I miss this old. I may boot up a VM or install this on my Linux. I should install it on my Linux laptop, because it's kind of like an older laptop. It's a 8th gen Intel system running Mint. But Mint was really good on it, so. So this is also a distribution I have a little bit of a soft spot for, I think is the right word. because this is like a continuation of Mandrake Linux back in the day. If anyone can remember that. This one and SUSE before it became OpenSUSE, and they had like an open community version and a commercial version. SUSE and Mandrake was my two favorite Linux distributions. I actually lended more towards Mandrake because SUSE back in the day was still more like Red Hat. They were still focusing way more on the commercial side, where Mandrake was like more consumer friendly, but also had a lot of commercial stuff going on, and they lasted for 12 years apparently. But this was like, oh yeah, then they became Mandriva, and then they defaulted. That's why Mandriva was like the community version. This is like nostalgic shit, man. So this must be the old Mandriva version. Yeah, this was like a Sox machines. I used to watch this, or not watch, read this a lot. This used to be a good website for news. But yeah, I thought they were like dead. A little bit down memory lane, I guess. Cosmic gets a new system monitor. What's that all about? Ah, fancy. I do like the Cosmic desktop, to be honest. The new monitor, we built our Rust-based lib Cosmic toolkit. Built with our Rust-based lib Cosmic toolkit. That kit. Good day, good sir. I'm going to disappoint you. This is Windows. This is Windows. I'm just you're just seeing the second monitor, where I have no taskbar and stuff like that. This is my streaming monitor, my information displaying monitor, my what you will call it, content consumption monitor. So I do like a dual 27-inch monitor setup, and this one here is the one I use to stream for. So yeah, I'm not running Linux. Well, I do run Linux, but I don't. It's not my main thing anymore. So yeah, you can. So you can make it, and I do this. I do make Windows more streamlined, and I will show you a program where you can do this. It's called Wireshark, if I'm not mistaken. Here it is. Windhawk. So in here, you can download basically plugins that modify how Windows look, and it takes no worthwhile resources. It basically just reskin the. I think Windows is built up around JavaScript, so it basically just reskin or redo the JavaScripting for Windows. And I have had minimal to no bugs whatsoever with. Like, it has not it has crashed Windows, not Windows, but it restarted the Explorer 1, so not the Explorer, the Windows Manager. So basically, what it does is like it just reboot Explorer, not the kernel, but the Windows Manager, and start it up again. And that's happened once in the 2 years I've been using it. And it's a free and open source program, if I'm not mistaken, where you can just my good old headset keeps yelling at me that I need to charge it. So can I do this in a manner that makes sense? Just give me a second here. But yeah, you can go nuts. Nope. Why the fuck won't it? Oh. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. Okay, so apparently I cannot charge and listen to my headset at the same time, which I find really, really fucking weird. Or it's because I'm not connecting it to a USB device that's connected to my computer. Let's try that. Nope. Yeah, so I have a sound core, and they're really, really good for the price and stuff like that, but this really sucks. Back to this here. Yeah, you can see here there are plenty of things you can do here, and they have a massive library. This is just their features. Explore more mods. There are YouTube channels that customize Windows by only using this tool to make it look like Mac OS and all kind of Linux desktop environments and whatnot. It's such an amazing tool. Windows needs to be remade like Windows 7, where everything just works. No, yeah, I agree with you. So what I wish they would do is they would give us plain Windows with AI as an opt-in, where if you wanted it, you just you click the button that says yes, give me this, and let us choose what AI we wanted. Like, do you want Copilot, or what features of the AI do you want? Let me put it this: do you just want like a desktop app with Copilot on it? Yes. Do you want like the AI optimization features for Paint and all that shit? No. Do you want AI optimization and bullshit for Notepad? No. So it took that away, but let you choose what features you wanted. I wish they would do that. But this is an industry problem. It's not just a Windows problem. AI is the new buzzword, and if you put AI anywhere, you are almost guaranteed to sell more product, get more money, and therefore a lot of business people like to push AI, which is sad, because that means that AI is being used in places it should not be used. That's not good for AI, and it will give AI a bad reputation in the common folk / development world's view that will hold AI back when the bubble bursts, because the bubble will burst. Windhawk is the best customization tool that newbie can use without banging their head in document. Exactly. Yeah, okay. I am 100% agreeing with you. And I only theme Windows because of Windhawk. I used to install all kind of crazy fucking shit and stuff like that. But when I discovered this, I'm just like, yeah, I want convenience. I don't want to sit and it's the same problem I have with Linux, why I don't use it as my main desktop, is that I don't want to be a system administrator for my computer that I do work on. If I don't do work on it, or don't run a YouTube channel, or don't build apps on it, or don't use it as a gaming machine, where I want it to be stable and I want it to just work. If my hobby was fixing my computer, basically, yeah, I would be running Linux all the time, as I did when I was a teenager. Because I had way more time, and I wanted to learn about Linux, and the best way to learn about Linux is to run Linux and deal with the problem when they arise. Nowadays, I want to do things that either will make me money or potentially will make me money in the long run. Sitting and fixing Linux, for me, is not viable anymore, because I already know a lot about Linux, or can acquire the knowledge that I need about Linux really fucking fast, where I don't need to sit and do the, what is this command over and over and over again, in case I may get a job as a system administrator for Linux. I've done it so many times that it will take me no time to go back into Linux mode, or back into Windows mode and stuff like that. So now in my life, it makes no sense to do it. But if you are an aspiring Linux admin, like you want to become a Linux administrator at some point, or work with Linux in a server room, install Linux all over the fucking place and run wild with it and stuff like that. That makes total sense. But let's say you just want to develop. It don't matter what fucking machine you develop on, to be honest, depending on what you're developing. If you're developing Windows native apps, you should develop on Windows, because it makes it easier to test your app on Windows. You don't have to go into virtual boxes and have a second computer and all that fucking bullshit. If you're developing for mobile only, you can use whatever the fuck you want, you know, unless it's for Apple and you need a MacBook. but if you are a backend developer for a Linux server, yeah, run Linux as your main OS. You know, I go nuts when I see these, like, I am a full-time developer and I am Linux only and I'm working for a Windows company, and like, or Windows-centric companies, and like, okay, so what are you doing then when you look at that video? So they're running Windows in a VM to test a piece of software that they develop on Windows. And a lot of times, depending on what kind of development you do, you can't cross-compile. So that means that you can't compile a Windows executable on your Linux machine. So they develop their code on Linux, and then they push it to GitHub, log into the Windows VM, pull it down, compile it, and test it. Just so they can say they run Linux. To me, that's stupid. Okay? That's stupid. You know, that's to me, that's the stupidest thing you can ever do. If your workflow is like that, you are making your life more hard. But if you're developing for an Android platform, for example, you can develop on a fucking Haiku if you wanted to. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, they're not going. They're not going to do that. I can't read now. They're not gonna do that. Not while the hurting people information. Yeah. That's another thing about. Well, Microsoft. So that's another misconception. Microsoft don't take that much user data. They take a lot of telemetry, but we have to distinguish between telemetry and user data. So Microsoft do take a lot of telemetry, but they don't take so much user. They do take user data, but you can actually minimize that a lot, so they almost take nothing. But they do take telemetry, a lot of telemetry, and that's because people are bad at bug reporting. People don't tell. I know this for a fact. I've worked on projects, and we put software out there, and we thought everything was okay until we sit at the launch table 6 months later, and people start bitching and moaning about the software has been broken for 6 months. Or they had to do this, like stand on one hand, swing a dead cat over the computer to get it to work every Monday or something like that. But they don't tell us. And that's why telemetry is so big as it is. It's because the vast majority of users, instead of telling there is a problem, they try to find a solution. And then when they find a solution, that's just become the new norm. They don't go and tell the developers that we need to do this little stupid thing to every Monday because your program acts up. It just becomes the new thing. And then in a department, I've seen this many times also, there's this one person who knows how to fix the problems. So when there is a problem, instead of the user going to the developer, they go to the person that, you fixed this yesterday, how did you fix? Oh, I rebooted Windows by peeing in a cup and praying to whatever god you want to pray to, and then it worked. Oh, I just have to do the same. Yeah, and then they do the same and it works. So they don't go to the developer, they just talk with each other. And that's also a company culture and stuff like that. Seems really unlikely that Microsoft gonna make AI update. Yeah, true, my friend, true. I do notice that it seems to be a longer delay. Or is it just me? Yeah, there is actually quite a long delay. Holy crap, there's a... Am I even... Was that the first or the second one? Okay, so... So I am testing a new streaming software, so please bear with me here for a little while. But thank you guys for stopping in. I'm so, I really love talking with you guys. I love talking with people in general. It gets boring just sitting here and talking with yourself. Yeah, so I'm just reading the chat here again. It seems unlikely that Microsoft's gonna AI opt-in, group policy editor, and NT Lite is the way. Exactly, okay, yeah. Say no. Chris Titus Tech does this exactly you were saying. He used TMU KVM with the... Yeah, and if you use Windows in a VM, you are still a Windows user. I'm sorry to say it. Yeah, I know he used Mac for DaVinci Resolve. I do that on and off also myself. But I'm a little bit... let me put it this way. Apple has rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. So I'm a little bit anti... Apple at the moment. I'm just doodling to test some stuff here. Oh, that's the eraser. That's not the one I want. So this is a paid software, by the way. I'm using the free version. That's why I'm surprised there's no watermarks. Because they said there will be watermarks and outro and intros promoting this stream software, but I don't see that. Yeah, if you use... I know I'm all over the place, I'm sorry, but if you use Windows in a VM, you are a Windows user. You might as well have a Windows laptop on the side then. So I tried this year in January. I tried to run Linux only for like I actually started in October last year, where I migrated mostly over to Linux, and then New Year's I was like, I'm maining Linux, but I still had to live in a Windows world for my work I had at the time and stuff like that. So I just ran a Windows laptop. So when I needed to do Windows programs, I didn't sit in Linux and did all this mental gymnastics to call myself a purist. I was just, well, if I need to develop a Windows app or something for the work, I used a Windows laptop. But my gaming and all the other stuff I did on Linux. I don't know why this is so, like, it's almost like if you put Windows into a condom called a virtual machine, you are not really touching it. It's like, is this like mindset of like, well, let's package Windows into this thing, and that's called a virtual machine. And because we're using a virtual machine, we're not really using Windows. You are using Windows, my friend. I'm sorry to say it. You are a Windows user. You're just fooling yourself, and there's nothing wrong with that. But a lot of things Chris titled text don't make sense. Okay. He used a lot, and a lot of Linux people do this. They use a lot of mental gymnastics to, what is the right word? To make it, to fool themselves probably mostly into thinking that they're doing this thing that they're really not doing. Like they are purist Linux user, they are FOSS advocate, which you can be, and be a proprietary and Windows user, you know. But a lot of Linux people, they do a lot of things to try and so this should not be like this, but in the Linux community, in a lot of places, especially among the hardcore nerds, if you use proprietary software or Windows, you are looked a little bit down on. And to not be looked a little bit down on, they make it more complicated to use it to show that they know what they are doing, or they are smart, or well, look at me, I'm using it in a VM and not on real hardware, so ha 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 ha. Again, if you need Windows, and like at one point I had 4 laptops, you know, like I know nowadays it's expensive to buy hardware, but if you have a spare laptop somewhere, put Windows on it. Your main machine don't need to do everything. You know, like your main machine just needs to do the things you do the most. That's why it's your main machine. It's the one where you spend most of the time on. And I'm so fed up, and this is why I like distanced myself a lot from the Linux community a few years ago. I'm so tired that if I want to be a Linux user or use open source or FOSS software, I have to limit my capabilities and my opportunities to appease a fictive, made-up sentiment that proprietary software is bad, and FOSS is the way of the future, and Linux is the way of the future, and blah blah blah, and therefore we cannot support or use Windows or proprietary software. That's bullshit. Like, there are Linux YouTubers that is like, if you work for a proprietary company, you are going against the movement of Linux and FOSS, and you're making the world a worse place, and you should resign right away, not thinking about that these people need to, you know, pay rent, have food on the table. They can't just sit and have a YouTube channel that pay their fucking bills, you know. And Chris Ties Tech is the reason why I made this channel. Like, funny enough, he was the reason I made this channel. I was a fan of his in the beginning until I started to see how much disinformation he puts out there. And then I noticed DistroTube that is just like fucking mental. The same with Mental Outlaw and stuff like that. And I was like, there's nobody on YouTube that has a realistic viewpoint on Linux anymore. So that's why I started this channel, and I've gotten a lot of hate for doing that, to be honest. Like, I get death threats once in a while, and called all kind of crazy fucking names. I had someone, this is the weirdest thing. I was showcasing something on Ubuntu, I was just randomly having Ubuntu in a VM, and I was like, oh, there's this thing I need to showcase, so I make a video running Ubuntu in a VM. And I had people like, oh, we are unsubscribing because you're using Ubuntu. Ubuntu is owned by Microsoft, and going mentally in my Discord because I was just randomly one day showcasing something unrelated to Ubuntu but used Ubuntu. That mindset I can just not agree upon. You know, that mindset, it don't work. And I know it's a minority, but they are the loudest people, you know. So here's the thing. You can do anything you want on Windows. There's a lot of me statements in there. There's not a lot of... So in development, we have this saying, but it works on my computer, so it should work on everyone else's computer. Then we figure out it don't work on everyone else's computer. Just because you could do something, that's like Tom Brady became a professional quarterback, so therefore I can become a professional quarterback. Bill Gates is a billionaire, therefore I can easily become a billionaire. You can't just say because I can do something, everyone else can do something. And just because I don't have that mindset, don't mean everyone else don't have that mindset. Just because I have not heard about it, don't mean it don't exist. Like, I get a lot of Linux users coming in here, especially new Linux users, come in here and they say, like, we have never heard this, we never experienced that. I'm like, well, you have to remember, I've been using Linux since the 90s, you know. Like, I've been using Linux since the 90s. I've probably seen and heard and forgot more things than most people on Linux today know. So I keep telling them this when they come in, like, well, I have not seen this and I've never heard this. Well, I've never touched a polar bear. So therefore they must not exist. I've only seen them in pictures and television, but that can be fake. I don't know for a fact that they exist than what I hear other people say. You know, like, the only metrics I have for polar bears actually existing is people validating and telling me what I see in pictures and in television or on the internet is true, and that they have touched and seen a polar bear. You get what I'm coming at here. Windows is the industry standard, yep. Here's the thing. You cannot go a day without interacting with Windows, Mac, FreeBSD, and Linux. If you sit down and play on your PlayStation, you are interacting with FreeBSD. When you are withdrawing cache, you're probably interacting with QNX a lot of times, or Windows ME or C, the embedded system version, or IoT version. It could also be Linux, it could also be FreeBSD. But a lot of credit card stuff and stuff like that, especially older ATMs, are running Windows. You know, if you want to be in the IT industry, no matter what it is, if you refuse to learn Windows, you won't have a job for a long time. Because this is a made-up word, but the majority of workloads in development or IT, call it what you will, is going to be centered around Windows in some way, shape, or form. So they can have a Linux backend, but all their computers they have in the office are Windows related because they use Windows only software to do project management and blah, 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 all that fucking shit. You know. So it's not that, well, technically I could develop on Linux because we're developing for Linux backend, But the tools we use to make meetings, project management, custom built software for our company is all only Windows. So if you're one of those people, I can develop for Linux, but I refuse to use Windows, you will be left over by a lot of other people. And there will also, on the other hand, be places where if you say, I refuse to work on Linux, you can't get a job then. If your company is, again, a Linux backend company, and you just like, I refuse to do server-related stuff with Linux, they find someone that will and kick you out the door. The thing, if you want to survive in any industry, you cannot be a one-trick pony. You can be a specialist in one thing. So Rayan can say like, yes, I'm an expert in Linux, but I don't mind working on Windows or using Windows. Or I'm an expert on Windows, but I don't mind, using Linux and stuff like that. If anyone thinks Linux is the way and the only thing that should exist, that's a dictatorship mindset, and that's not a mindset that will work in the real world. So when people say there is a skill issue on Linux, I can tell you that then you have the skill issue. Because you can do anything you can do anything with Windows you can do with Linux. Like, you can do anything on Windows you can do with Linux. You can customize Windows just like you can customize Linux. You can make ISOs. You can make distributions around Windows as you can with Linux. You just need to know how to do it. And here's the thing. The skill issue thing is a thing people use when they don't have any more arguments. They don't have any good arguments left. It's like if you're in a debate or talking with someone and say, oh, you're stupid, so therefore I should not listen to you. Or you are ugly, therefore I should not listen to you. That's something people say when they don't have any more good counterpoints in the argument, meaning their reasoning for why they are right or wrong or their viewpoint should be looked at is saturated. They don't have any more good points they can throw on the table and say, well, have you thought about this? Or have you looked into this? So they just use skill issue, or you were stupid, or you were old, or you were young, and stuff like that. That means that when someone uses that it's just a skill issue, you have lost the conversation. I'm sorry to say it, but that it's just like saying, like, I should not listen to you talking about geometry because you're ugly. That's not a valid point not to listen to someone because they are ugly. It just means you cannot come up with any more good points why you should not listen to them. And they may be full of shit. I'm not saying that they are right. They may be full of shit. But that means you have lost the conversation. So if you're talking with someone and they get emotional and they yell and scream at you and they come at you with like something that like insults, that means you have won that conversation. It's a really, and this is something that's been studied for like as long as humans have been around. It's a well-known fact in whatever field it's in. But when people like, it's just a skill issue is such a cope that you cannot take it seriously, because what is the skill issue? Just because you can do something, like I am playing games I can't play on Linux. It won't run on Linux. There are games that run better on Linux that I also play, funny enough. But no matter what you do, you can't get those games to run on Linux, either because of anti-cheat and stuff like that. There are coding projects that I have done where I could do it on Linux, but it will just make it super difficult. Because I had to, like I said, we have to run these 10,000 different fucking VMs to test the software, and it meant that I was isolated from the group of people I was working with, because the other software everyone else was using was not compatible with Linux, and there were no alternatives that did the same. again, just because I have never touched a polar bear or seen it in real life, by your logic alone, that means that it should not exist. Because it's something the world have told me existed. I've just never seen it. And I can live without a polar bear. I don't mind them not existing. You know. It's like saying that I want to run Apple's messaging app on Android. And if you can't do that, it's a skill issue. Can you get it done? Probably with a lot of hacking and bullshit like that. But at some point, it's not a skill issue anymore. It's just, is it practical? Is it doable? And are you really getting what you want? You cannot do everything on Linux you can do on Windows. You just can't. And you cannot do anything on Windows you can do on Linux. Fact. But you can do 99% of the things you can do on Windows, you can do on Linux. I would not say 9, I would say 80% of what you can do on Windows, you can do on Linux. 95 to 99% of what you do on Linux, you can do on Windows. Funny enough. And that's just because Windows have a bigger supported library of apps. What do you think about Android surviving an industry without Android? Can iOS really do anything without needing Android? Yes, it can. Yes, it can. You don't need Android. You don't need iOS. And you also have to remember, Android is not really Linux. It's a fork of Linux. And this is out of the mouth of the good old developers of Linux, Android themselves. I don't... I don't subscribe to a lot of this, because you have to... So when people start to talk about psychology and all these like logical fallacies and all that fucking shit, a lot of it is soft science, let me call it that. So don't... Even though they may be right, I'm not saying they're right or wrong, I just hate putting those labels on it, because then I validate something that again sounds more like coping mechanisms that if you like talking about buttholes when you're an adult, that means you didn't fondle your own ass enough as a child, the whole Freudism and stuff like that, which has been debunked like so many fucking times. Like, I'm not saying that there's not some truth to it and stuff like that. It's just like when you start to put labels on things, you're also encapsulating them into that thing, if that makes sense. Which is what Linux users do. Like, I am a Linux user. Now they have labeled themselves and put restrictions on themselves, instead of just saying that I am a computer user and I use whatever software is the best for the job. If that's Linux, or if that's Windows, whatever, or I use whatever software I like to use or makes sense for me to use, or I use whatever programming language, etc., that makes sense for the project, and so on, so on. That means that you are not in a box, you are not locked in, you are open for a lot of things. But it's like, I am a Rust developer, I am a C# developer. You have locked yourself, even though you may know Python and all these things, if that's all you say, people will think, logically enough, that you cannot code in anything other than C# and Rust. So you will not be considered for anything other than Rust and C# projects. You get what I'm coming at here? So I hate labels. Yeah. Like, I really hate labels quite a lot. But Linux users, they love doing this. And again, the skill issue, it really drives me up the wall, because I see this a lot in blog posts or forums and stuff like that, where people are trying to help people, and then someone comes in and like, oh, you're just stupid. Because that's what the skill issue actually say. It says like, the reason why you are saying this or can't do this is because you're stupid. That's what the skill issue means. It's your fault because you are stupid. That's what you actually are saying with skill issue. And I know, and I've talked to people with an IQ higher than everyone else in this stream combined, that are not using FOSS and not using Linux. I've also talked to Linux users that have been using Linux since the inception of Linux, and probably could run circles around everyone on YouTube about Linux that couldn't fucking figure out how to set the refresh rate in either Windows or KDE. You get the idea here. So telling someone like that, oh, you can't set the refresh rate, oh, that's a skill issue. No. And there are just things, and I know this is hard for Linux users to know, there are just things Linux can do. There are things any OS can do. Like, I can't run the fucking Linux kernel on Windows. Is that a skill issue? Without rewriting a lot of fucking systems I don't have access to? Is that a skill issue? Like, I can't take the NT kernel out and plug Linux in. Oh, well, that must be a skill issue then. Because that's what that skill issue means. Like, you can do anything if you know how to do it. Well, I can't run to the moon right now. Is that a skill issue then? It's such an unintelligent way of having a conversation. When people use these kind of words, I kind of discount them already. Unless it's like for comedic effects and stuff like that. Skill issue, noobs, normies. Well, there's some other ones I can't remember. But yeah, skill issue, noobs, and normies are like the big ones. Because all of these basically just mean that I am disregarding you because I think I am smarter than you. That's what those things actually means. Oh, I am not... When you call someone a newbie or noob or normie, you're basically just telling them, saying to them, you know what? I don't have to listen to you. I don't have to think about what you're saying. I don't want to help you because I am better than you. I'm smarter than you. And it's such a bad mindset to have. Because if you really are smarter than someone else, wouldn't it be nice to, like, educate? Wouldn't it be nice to give that knowledge, help someone? That's a way better feeling to actually help someone or well, I just downloaded it because I needed a browser, so yeah. I didn't have any of my personal data on it. But wouldn't it be more nice if you could, like, instead of calling them a newbie and skill issue and stuff like that, actually fucking help them out or try to understand what they are saying? Okay, so you're saying you can't do this thing on Linux. Why is that? Like, what have you done to try and do it? So my case why I stopped using Linux full time this year, which I really fucking hate that I couldn't do it because I really wanted to. It just came down to a lot of inconsistencies in Linux. Pop OS, good old Pop OS, I don't know, I hope they fixed it, but sometimes when I opened a game, I could not use my mouse. It was locked out of the game. If I alt-tapped back into Cosmic Desktop, it worked fine. The only solution was to reboot the computer. And this was something that happened randomly. If the computer's been open for or running for more than a week consecutively. So it was a bug that only came up after like a week of non-stop running. Meaning the computer been on for more than a week. Didn't have that problem in any other distributions. I tried a lot of other distributions. Mint, for the life of me and the tweaking and forum post reading, YouTube video reading, documenting reading, automatically hibernation did not work. It worked on my laptop, where it just automatically turned off the screens after inactivity for a certain time and stuff like that. It worked on my laptop. It did not work on my desktop. And I fucked around to get that to work for a month. And it's things like that. Then there's like, hate me or not, I do like snap packages. There are some. So if I want to run an app, an app, I look at the developer. What do they support? So if you go into Firefox here, and let's do the download here. Do they have a platform? Can I not do that? What is it? Discord? Why the fuck can I not remember? Is it VLC? Yeah, it's VLC. So let's just take OpenSUSE. Let's take Ubuntu. So what I look at, if I want to run a software, I want to know what delivery method do the developers support themselves, if they do one. So I know this is a lot of work, but I will go in and I will say like, okay, let's say I want to run VLC. Let's say this is on Ubuntu. What is their preferred way of doing it? So they sit here. VLC for Ubuntu and many other Linux distributions is packaged using Snapcraft, or snap packets. This allows us to distribute the latest and greatest VLC version directly to end users with security and critical box, full code, blah, 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 support. So they basically are saying here that they recommend that on Ubuntu and other distributions that you are using the flat or snap packed version. So I want to use that version. And then I use Mint, and they plug snap packages. You have to unplug snap packages, the capability to run that on Mint. And I don't like that. Why are you, you are a distribution maker. Or you should not make almost universally choices, meaning choices for me that can't easily be circumvented. They have a snap plug file in the repository manager, or in the package manager. So that means until you remove that file, you cannot install anything that has to do with snaps. And that puts me, basically tells me that I don't like Mint or not, because you should not make that choice for me. That's just like Microsoft pushing AI on me. And then I run other distributions, and then their font rendering is bullshit. Or their display manager, like the way that they, I had distributions where I was like, why do my screen look better on Windows? On the same computer? Why does the screen look better on Windows when I boot into Windows? And that is because they're running stock standard X11 or Wayland with washed out color correction or color gray, whatever the fuck you will call it. That is awful. And some don't. So I spent almost 6 months thinking, okay, I want a distribution that don't make choices for me, but also don't make me want it to be system administrator. And then I want it to actually fucking be stable also. But I also don't want it to run so outdated packages that I have to wait 2 or 3 or 4 years to get new features. So you are in this, like, in Linux, it's not like with Windows or Mac where, okay, if I'm running Windows, I know exactly what I'm getting or not getting. If I'm on Mac OS, I know exactly what I'm getting and not getting. With Linux, it's a fucking guess what you're getting and not getting. And that is what killed it for me. I was tired of making all of these small little compromises just so I can say I run Linux. Because here's the thing, nobody gives a fuck if I run Linux or not. They really don't. Like when I go down to my pub or I go out shopping and I talk to the cashier, they don't give a fuck if I'm running Linux or not. The only one that gives a fuck if I'm running Linux is some rando on the internet. You know, some random person on the internet that I never going to see or talk to again, probably. In the grand scheme of things, in your day-to-day life, what OS you runs is the least fucking conversation that anyone wants to have with you. Unless you find someone that's interested in it like you. That's why we had user groups back in the day, you know. Like, we had to have local logs, they were called. Local user groups. We had to we had to sign up to a group of people to find someone interesting in the same interest that we had. That's how little Linux as an OS means to the populace. Like, in the grand scheme of things. You had to search, like, I live in this town, is there a Linux user group there? So I can at least find someone that has the same interest as me. And most towns didn't have that back in the day. That is how little the conversation about Linux and FOSS meant to the grand society. That you had to be like a stalker on the internet to find someone else to talk to. You get what I'm coming at here. It's just like... And that's why I don't like when distributions are making decisions for me. If Mint don't like snap packages, just don't enable it by default. But give me the option to run it if I want to. Because there is a lot of developers that do package their own software as snap packages. And that means that you always are getting the latest and greatest. That means that you're getting it before anyone else. You don't have to wait for a package maintainer to package it and test it and push it. And then you are in the mercy of that package maintainer and that distribution maker of how... what you will call it? Diligence they do testing and so on, you know. The skill issue discussions are dumb on Linux. Like, did you born with your knowledge of universe and didn't need to learn anything, of course. Yep. Skill issue, normie, all of these things. If that's all you can bring to the conversation, you should not be in the conversation. You know, because if you know more than me, then fucking teach me. You know, if you know more than the person in the blog post or in the forum or in the YouTube comment, teach them if they want to. I hope this makes sense. Don't just sit there and say, haha, I know how to fix it or help you, but you just apparently are stupid, so therefore I'm not going to do it. So, fuck you, bye-bye, don't see you later. Get what it's just like, okay. And here's the thing, a lot of the people that use the word skill issue, normie, noob, and stuff like that, they actually don't know how to fix it. They just know that it works for them, so therefore it should work for you. I have a polar bear in my back garden, therefore you should have a polar bear in your back garden. No matter how skilled you have you learned skilled you have to learn from scratch if you want to use new things. No one gets to get born of the roost. True. Most Linux users actually don't know much about Linux, sadly enough. Most Linux users, they know how to... And it's the same with Windows and Mac users. This is not just a Linux. Most computer OS users that like to be in the conversation really don't know much about what they're talking about. Because they know what an OS is, they have the basic concepts of computing, they know how to install it and run it, and that's it. There are a lot of so-called Windows experts, they couldn't tell you how to fix a lot of things behind what's in the control center. But they regard themselves as power users or whatever fucking term they want to use. But if it's something where you need to go into the registry or you need to run like a PowerShell command, like let's say you want elevated privileges, something like, I can't remember what the fuck it's called. It's something with user control, where you have to enable, if you want to run like admin scripts and stuff like that, you have to enable. I can't fucking remember what it's called right now. But anyway, they have no concept of that, or that you need environmental path. There's a lot of Linux users that still don't understand that some things to run needs an environmental path for the OS to understand that it exists. Even developers don't fucking know this, funny enough. And that's mostly developers that are like one-trick ponies. It's nothing scares me more when I go on to GitHub and I see a developer and everything is in one language. Like everything. That's a little bit like, are you like a one-trick pony? At least you should, like, it's okay, like I said, it's okay to be good at one thing and specialize in one thing. But you need to know more than just one fucking coding language. And if I see someone where their whole fucking repository is nothing but PowerShell scripts and Bash scripts, and they call themselves a developer, no, you're a script kitty. You nothing wrong with that. Like, I use scripts all the time for system administration. But I don't say like, oh, I'm developing a program right now because I'm using Bash or PowerShell. No, I am automating. I'm scripting. And they can be elaborate, they can be advanced, but in the end, you are just a script kiddie. If you want to call yourself a developer, you need to understand, even on a hobby plan, you need to understand a development language in at least an intermediate fashion. And it's not like, oh, well, I can do print hello world in Python or Rust, so therefore I'm a developer. No, you need to know stuff where if you get put into a team of people, you at least can not be the one dragging the team down. Like, you don't need to know everything. You don't need to be like, what is the word? The one driving the conversations. But you should not also be the one, like, what is an integer? What is a string? What is classes? How do they work in set programming? Like, you should at least understand the basics. Because then you can always, like, when you go home, then, like, holy fucking shit, they talked about polymorphism. I can't remember, or forgot, or don't know what that is in X programming language. Let me refresh it, or relearn it, or learn it. That's fine. That's okay. You don't need to be an expert. But also, you don't should be like, yes, I can, I'm a senior Rust developer, and you have never done anything worthwhile in Rust other than taking a tutorial here and there and do print hello world. Like, you get what, I hope you all get what I'm coming at here. Like, I'm not going to, let me put it this way. The word expert, the word developer, engineer, a word that has some meaning for it, words that have meanings, have been thrown around too much on the internet. It's the same with autism, ADHD, what the fuck was that? Oh, it was just the music. Any big words that make you something. I hope this makes sense. They have been throwing around so much on the internet because it's so easy to say that they almost have lost their meaning. So if I hear someone say, oh, I'm struggling with this mental health issue, I'm like, what year did you get diagnosed? And if they don't have a year, or they said, I've never been diagnosed, you don't have the right to sit and say you are that. Because then you're delegitimizing people that actually fucking are suffering from it. You could be suffering from it. But until you have it on fucking paper, it's just, you just think. It's just a feeling. And you could be right. I'm not saying you're wrong. But there needs to be some form of like validation. Like I'm an expert in Linux. Okay, have you worked with Linux professionally? Nope. How long have you used Linux? 6 months. You're not an expert. You can't be an expert. If you're not working with Linux and work with it for years, you are not even close to being a fucking knowledgeable Linux user. And if you're not working with Linux and you have not used it for at least a decade or something like that, you're not a fucking Linux expert. Because being good at something comes with doing it. So being a good developer or admin, you have to administrate, you have to develop, you have to use it, you have to use that skill. And you have to use it more and more and more. And if you're not working 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, you need to do it longer at home. Like, it takes longer to do it as a hobbyist. So if it takes, let's say, a week to become an expert in something as a professional, it probably will take you a month to get the same experience doing it 2 hours at home. Every weekend or every day at home. You know. So, a lot of people on the internet, they love to throw these words around, and because a lot of people just are gullible and accept it, they ruin it for everyone else. MacBook Neo got, I saw that. Every Apple product got a price. That's like, the problem that I have with, what is it in Denmark? They got kind of high in Denmark also. Or we could just look at the American store. Let's do Mac. Yeah, it's... So here's the thing. I don't like it. Like... I hate the hardware prices we have right now. But there's also nothing we can do about it. Other than not buying. Or if we have the money, or can save the money up, bending over and say, yes, take the pitchfork and shove it in my body, and then just do it. I do kind of hope, but also expect that they will go down in a few years' time. Because I don't know if you guys can remember the Bitcoin mining thingy. Like when you couldn't, like before the coup came around, you couldn't get almost any graphic cards because Bitcoin miners bought them all. And because of that, graphic card manufacturers was price setting or price fixing, meaning that they were artificially hiring the prices because they could. And they were talking with each other, like they were agreeing on doing it as a collective. It was not just like this one brand did it. No, it was like a lot of them was for the beneficial of all of them. They were like, let's all agree to, rise our prices with X%. That is going on with RAM prices and stuff like that. RAM and memory, memory price. When I say memory, I mean storage prices. That's the right word. Right now. There's a lot of governments investigating manufacturers for price fixing right now. And that is why I have a sneaky suspicion. I will give it like an 80% chance that in a year or so they will go down. But they will not go down to what they were before. And here's another thing. They did find out that the graphic card manufacturers did this price fixing thing. The prices did go down. But they didn't go down to what they used to be. They just got down a little bit. So, if they figure out that this is true, that the RAMs are price fixing, and or the AI bubble, or when the AI bubble bursts, RAM will become cheaper and storage will become cheaper. Will it become as cheap as it was before? or even cheaper, maybe until the stock is, like the overstock is sold out. But then it will regulate to being higher than it used to be, but not as high as it is today. I hope this makes sense. But that's always how it has been with technology when stuff like this has happened, is that either a bubble burst or they get fined out for doing naughty things, and then they sell out of the current stock really, really low because there's no need to produce so much anymore. Or the prices just go back to like, so if it was $100 before, it would be $110 or $15 now, instead of $200 or $150. So I do think that hardware prices will go down, because I've seen this, like I've lived a long time in the tech world, and I've seen this is like a waves we come into, where sometimes something happens where a certain product becomes really, really desirable, and it skyrockets for a year or 2 or 3, and then it falls down again because it's not sustainable. And but it never falls down to either cheaper or the same price as it was before. It just goes down so it becomes more affordable. And what that means is, like, let's say this MacBook Neo here is $699. I think, wasn't it $599 before? Well, it may go down to like $650. You get what I'm coming at here, or something of that nature. It will never go all the way down. Like here, they will just be like, if it was $11.99, it would probably go down to $12.50 or something. You get what I'm coming at here, you know. And it's it's the sad reality of the world. And I saw a lot of YouTubers, they're like, well, buy used. But if you go on to the used market, they also now know that they can expect more for their product. So used prices have gotten up. So if you want a laptop or computer used with 32 gig of RAM, that's like 50% more expensive now than it was like 6 months ago. If new products goes up in price, the used market goes up in price also. Yes, you still save money than buying used than buying new, but it's not like you are saving more now. For a little while, I would say like summer last year till now, you could save a lot of money by buying used. Now you're only saving like 15-20% or something like that. Remember, everyone lost their collective mind when the PS5 Pro was announced at lost price. Now the piece was the most value for money cost. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like I'm actually low-key thinking about getting a PS Pro. But I'm also low-key thinking about saving up for 580 or 570, because I have a 5070 now. But I have a 1440p monitor, gaming monitor that runs a lot of frames. I capped it at 144, but it goes all the way up to 100 or is it 240 or 108? I can't remember. But at one point, for the games I play, it just becomes useless to run that many frames. But mine can just, in the new games, without upscaling, barely reach 100. And if you're playing games, if you get 100 to 110, like 100 plus, that's where you start to feel the smoothness of the game. And then you just become marginally better after 100. But from 60 to 100, you feel a massive difference. And then after 100 or 110, it becomes less and less of a noticeable feeling unless you're playing super competitive games. So I am thinking about upgrading to a 5070 Ti or a 5080. Because my thought pattern here is that I don't game much, but I do game. So mostly I game in the weekends or evenings, and then I just develop and learn and do computer related work or YouTube related work all the rest of the days or in the, before evening in weekdays. So it's not like I'm a massive gamer anymore. But if I get a 580, it should last me like at least like 3 or 4 years. The one I have right now I can probably use for like 2 or 3 years. Xbox or Steam Machine is dust now. Xbox is not bad. Xbox is good. Steam Machine, they dropped the ball. The Steam Machine is too expensive and it's too underpowered. I have a PC 550, which is PSV APU formerly for crypto, but which I'm repurposing for gaming. Yeah. You can definitely do that. Yeah, the Steam Machine well fucked that up royally, man. Like they yeah, they fucked that up royally. It should have been it should have been priced at as a $500 machine. The Steam Machine should be maybe $100 more expensive than the Steam Deck. And that's it. That's it. But I think Valve got too greedy. Oh, yeah, true. Yeah, you can make any, like, you can build a better machine on yourself and put whatever OS you want on it, and it will be a better machine. For sure. 100% agreeing with you. You don't have to put Linux on, you can just put, if you want, you can put Windows on, it don't fucking matter. If you run the Xbox gaming app in full screen, in the full screen kind of mode, it almost feels like you're running an Xbox. Yeah. If a Steam Machine was like $500, I would buy one also. And maybe just to fuck around with it. Like, I would buy one for $500 just to fuck around with. You know, maybe have it as my dedicated Windows desktop for whatever I want to do with Linux. But I do suspect a lot of people will install Windows on it, just because there's some games that just don't run on Linux, you know. Yeah, but Steam, if you want to do Steam big picture on Windows, so I will not install. Let me put it this way: I'm explaining this like really badly. So, like, I will not install Windows just to run big picture in Steam. I would just use whatever OS comes with the machine. But I would install Windows if I like Xbox and I'm an Xbox Game Pass subscriber. Then I would install Windows on the Steam machine. I hope this makes sense. You know, I hope this makes sense. But if I'm not a Xbox Game Pass subscriber and I don't really care about Xbox's user interface and stuff like that, I would just want big picture on whatever the fuck the machine comes with. Unless there is a game I can't play on Steam OS. There are a few, but not that many. And I do once in a while run big picture on Windows with Steam OS, or Steam, sorry, just for the fun of it. I have a MSI Claw that runs Windows, and it runs fine. Like, it's a Steam Deck competitor, it runs fine. And I sometimes run either Xbox big picture or Steam big picture. I think it's the Mark 1. Yeah, it's this one here. It's this one here I have. And the sound is amazing on it. I will say that. But the only reason why I have this one, I was thinking about getting a Steam Deck. But I got this one for like half the price of a Steam Deck. I got this really cheap. I prefer the GameScope Steam approach over big picture for sure. Yeah, that's fine, yeah. I honestly do... I wish I spent the money on a Steam Deck. Because the only reason why I got this one was that I wanted to play games in bed once in a while. And I barely use it. Like, I use it maybe once every 2 or 3 months. I boot it up, update it, play around with it a little bit. And for that, I would probably like the Steam Deck more. Because I could fuck around with Linux easily on it and stuff like that. This one here, if I want to fuck around with Linux, I have to install Linux on it. But it was honestly just one of those where I was like, oh, this looks interesting. And oh, it's only like, what did I pay for it? Like, $300. And that is with a 25% tax on it. So you guys will probably, like, take what it will cost you, you just retract 25%. That's what it will cost you to buy it. So I paid $300 for $400 for it. Yeah, about $400. Maybe $350. And then your price would be 25% less. So super cheap. Okay? Like super cheap. And I look at some reviews, and if you just do like retro gaming and all of that fucking shit, and you don't play like big massive games, it's okay, and it is okay. I do like it quite a lot for what it is. But I do wish I just saved up for the fucking Steam Deck. Because just... there's more accessories for it. Either that or getting a Nintendo Switch. I'm still thinking about getting a Nintendo Switch too, to be honest. To play Nintendo games. Yeah, so it's somewhat... the original Rock Ally is a little bit difficult to get here in Denmark. So we don't have that many choices when it comes to handhelds. It's either Nintendo, Valve, or like the newer versions of the other companies. They don't tend to stock up a lot of them, if you get what I'm coming at. I think Steam Big Picture is different from Steam Mode and Steam Mode. It probably is. I think they definitely do some optimization on SteamOS. And I do kind of still want to try and experience in SteamOS on a Steam Deck and stuff like that. I have a friend that have it, and she likes it, she loves it. She also plays Nintendo. So she don't game on computers, she games on PlayStation, Nintendo, like the Nintendo Switch, and then she have a Steam Deck. But she do say that the Steam Deck is not portable. Like, you need to be tethered to the fucking wall all the time. So she likes for the portability aspect, she likes the Nintendo more. It seems to be better at the battery management systems and stuff like that. But again, this has been like 6 months since I talked with her about that, so it could have been dealt with. With or without OS games, could just snake oil. Yeah. It still would be fun to fuck around with, you know. Oh yeah, the whole Wayland fucking problem Linux has. That's another reason why I don't mind Wayland. I just don't think Wayland is ready yet. Yeah, like I said, I would love to try and fuck around with GameScope and stuff like that a little bit. For sure. But buying stuff like this here, it is just I have money, I can afford it, and I don't care if I use it for more than a month, kind of thing. You know, for me, it is wasteful. It is, you know, when the more disposable income you get, you tend to buy more shit you don't need. Let me put it that way. I don't need a handheld gaming device. It's only just to satisfy my curiosity and maybe make some videos about it. Which remind me, I do want to do more videos, but I've been developing or coding so much the last few months. Like I have not done C# development in like 3 months or something like that. I need to get back. I need to make an app. I need an app. I need to develop in .NET MAUI, either MAUI or Flutter. I may go Flutter. But I do want to do a little bit more C# development just to keep my skills relevant, if you get what, so not forgetting everything. But the thing is, I've done this before where I have not used a coding language like in a year or something like that. And then you sit down, then after like a few hours, it all just comes back to you slowly. So, yeah. Well, even if it does do a lot of conveniences, is that the right word? It's still a good thing if you get what I'm putting down here. Like if it fixes some issues that irritating, it's still, you know. There's a YouTuber called No Name who made Steam Games Code scripts for distros like Mint and Omasi and oh, I think I've heard about the No Signal YouTuber. By the way, I think next week at some point, or maybe the week after, depending on how much time I have, I may do a test stream on Twitter. If anyone is interested in that, not Twitter, Twitch. If anyone is interested in that, I just want to see how Twitch. I will not say accept, but how doing this form of content on Twitch is like how Twitch accept that this form of content, if that makes sense. Or I can use my drawing pad for this one here. Because I do have a sneaky suspicion, because there's a lot of tech people on Twitch and stuff like that. And I have a sneaky suspicion that Twitch is better for live content. Even though YouTube has the technology beneficial foot to stand on. The stability on YouTube is better, the outcome on YouTube is better, the archiving aspect of YouTube is better. I just don't think there's many YouTubers that want to watch live streams on YouTube. Like YouTube viewers that like to watch live stream on YouTube. Because they are on YouTube, because YouTube mostly is either shorts or pre-recorded content. So I am and want to try and do that on Twitch a little bit in the future. So again, if you guys and girls are interested in that, let me know in Discord if you're on there. Because I will put on Discord when I go live there. Yeah, I know that they did that whole Valve was trying to fix Wayland basically for Proton problems and whatnot. But yeah, I've been watching a lot of streams on Twitch the last few months. I'm actually watching one right now on the side. This guy here, Rob CD, he's bicycling. So I watch a lot of non-tech content. Mostly because, like, if you do tech content yourself, it becomes like, it's like if you're a mechanic, you know, you don't want to be a mechanic every time when you come home, you want to watch something different. I just think that Twitch provide more for the content creator as a live streamer, and more for the viewer as a live streamer. But if you can't do tech content on Twitch, I'm not going to do that, but I want to try it out. And the other reason why I'm testing this software out here, I want to do IRL content a little bit. So I want to get in better shape, and to do that, the start of that is I want to go on more walks. If you look at this one here, you know, this is from a few months ago, but I do record my walks now, but it would be nice if I could live stream them, because it will make me want to go for more walks more often. And just because we are outside walking, it will still be tech. We can still talk tech and stuff like that. But I do kind of want to make something different than just tech content also. Like tech-focused content. So more outside content, and maybe if it becomes if I get somewhat viewers, showcase Denmark a little bit, you know, sightseeing Denmark. And then again, of course, talk about tech. What tech do I use? Or what do I recommend? But testing tech out in the field, you know. It could be as simple as testing this laptop, say it has 12-hour battery. Let's go out for 12 hours and see if we can do work for 12 hours on it while we are out in a city landscape, if you get what I'm talking about. So we could be walking in town for like 8 hours, and then once in a while sit down, do some coding, or just chatting along and using the laptop to see if it holds up. I hope this makes sense. But I kind of want to try and do that. And that kind of mixed content, I think, probably work better on Twitch. Because YouTube, like on YouTube, you do kind of one thing. If you want to do something else, you have to start another channel. That's how YouTube look at it. Which I hate. So let's say you want to do unboxing. I should make another channel that do only unboxing. And then if I want to do coding tutorials, I should make another channel that only do coding tutorials. Where it seems like Twitch don't care so much about what it is. They care more about consistency and stuff like that. But yeah, I do want to do more, or not more, but as a side hustle, do some walking outside content. Where is that? Is that... No. Doop. I just noticed that you need to be moved a little bit. There you go. So one of the one of the streams that I was like, I would try to do, and that's also why I kind of want a Steam Deck. I would love to see, like, if we take this one outside, and then just like we were walking. You know, it's a little bit hard to... Like, how long? How many hours can we play a game on this thing here, or on the Steam Deck? So like, let's say we go just find a fucking road, and we pick it up, and you guys can pick a game, and we're just like, how long can we play on this one here while we are walking, or while I'm walking? So I get some steps in, and we test the hardware. You know, we test this little thing here. How long can we actually fucking walk on it? Or not walk on it, but walk with it. But yeah. Just thoughts. Anyway, I need to go. I need to do some adulting and shit like that. This was just meant to be a little bit of a test stream. I do like this time bracket a little bit more than streaming at the evening, to be honest. So, hope to see you all later. Remember to comment, like, and subscribe and all that fucking shit on YouTube, on my videos. Go join my Discord and whatnot. And I will see you all later. Have a good rest of the weekend.